Hello, and welcome to R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm your host, Valerie King, R&R's editor in chief, and I'm joined today by Leighton Healey, who is CEO of KnowHow. Now, KnowHow, if you're not familiar, is a workforce communication platform for growing property restoration companies. And we invited Leighton on to talk about a timely new research initiative the company has launched. It's called the Restoration Workforce Survey, and it's deemed the largest survey ever conducted on the North American restoration workforce. So, of course, we all know staffing is a struggle. It's a struggle for many, many restoration companies. In fact, you may have heard me say this a few times finding skilled workers, increasing wages, and retaining labor are the top three challenges restoration companies face. And that's according to R&R's 2021 State of the Industry report. So, yeah, it's not a new pain point for the industry, but of course, the COVID-19 pandemic certainly exacerbated it, as it has exacerbated many things. The Great Resignation, the Great Attrition, you name it, has elevated employee expectations. It's given them the upper hand in unprecedented ways. So, of course, even with strong demand for restoration services and a markedly short supply of workers is stunning business growth. So the overall purpose, as I understand, and we'll dive in further, but the overall purpose of the Restoration Workforce Survey that KnowHow is launching is what we're here to chat about, and it's to understand how to address those challenges I named and more, really to shed light on what industry leaders should do to attract and retain qualified workers, and more than that, to create a work experience that also motivates new talent to pursue a career in the industry. So, very exciting initiative. Thank you for joining me, Leighton.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Valerie. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to diving into this very hot topic. So, I guess first question for those who aren't completely familiar, what is know-how and what's its role in the restoration industry? Really, how do you help restorers solve the problems that they have?
Yeah, no, great question, Valerie. For those that aren't familiar with KnowHow, it's really simply we help busy, growing restoration companies achieve company-wide compliance to their critical business processes and organizational know-how. When you doesn't matter, how long you've been in business. Everyone has come along some piece of advice that says you need to systematize your business, and that's kind of cold comfort advice like that. The question is, well, how? How do I actually, standardize the way we do things, make sure my staff actually use it, know if they're doing it the right way? What if my workers don't, all speak the same language? And what if the way I do things change? And how do I get my management team on board? And what if there's a whole bunch of other tools and softwares we use and the way we do? That's what we do. We help them make that seamless and easy.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, leaning further into the survey and this conversation we'll have about it, can you share a little bit with us about what you're seeing at Know How with your restoration contractor clients related to the workforce landscape?
hmm Yeah. So, um, I mean, everyone who listens to this, every growing company in the restoration industry, outside of the restoration industry, they have the same challenge. How do you find good staff, Valerie? And our clients are companies that realize that retaining and setting those staff up for success is a real challenge, right? And so we partner with our customers to solve those challenges. From the day a new worker walks in the door, how do you make sure that from square one they understand this is the way we do things around here, and to be able to set them up for success. We're very very sensitive to kind of trends in the industry, demographic changes that are really important to keep in mind when you have multi-generational workforces, because when you're trying to drive consistency across a scaling team, it's difficult. And so what we see in our customers is companies who recognize that sometimes in this industry can kind of be like the Wild West. Everyone kind of tries to do things their own way, and there's a couple marshals that walk around. But for the most part, very often when staff decide to leave the industry, and you ask them why, they'll say, "It's chaos," right? And so we're very interested in helping companies that really want to become more of like a sports team. You want to work out of the same playbook. and that's what everyone wants. And so yeah, this topic's very relevant for our customers, very relevant for the industry, and frankly, it's very relevant for people who show up every day to restoration companies and just would really love to see a few things change that would make a big difference in their enjoyment of their job.
Thank you for that context.
Hmm.
For more
Hmm.
context, this isn't KnowHow's first research study. Of course, in
Hmm.
2021, you collected over 1,000 one-star reviews from
Hmm.
restoration companies across all 50 US
Hmm.
states. Then you shared
Hmm.
your analysis in many places, one of them being 2 articles you wrote for R&R, one in
Hmm.
March and one
Hmm.
in August for those who'd like to learn more.
Yeah.
But I'm curious because not all vendors partake in these sorts of things. So,
Right.
before we dive into the survey itself, why is KnowHow doing what it's doing here in this world of research? Why are you
Hmm.
making a habit of investing in these kinds of initiatives?
Yeah. No, that's a very fair question. Um, at the end of the day, we're not a research company, right? We're a software company. So let me say it this way. This might be a slightly different way of coming at it, Valerie, but I think it'll help. Is that way too often we just get caught in our own assumptions, our own biases, our own view of the world. We all have kind of a lens that sometimes we're aware of, sometimes we're not aware of. And so data, good data, really brings objectivity to that. And so, every aspect of our company, from our product designing to our engineering to the way we support our customers, everything is really just built around really, just a method. Just we take research into every element to say, does this fit the way that the things that keep people up at night really want it to look and feel like? And sometimes tools and resources are more the product of someone developed a way that it really works well for them, and they just figured that it would work well for everyone. Steve Covey has this kind of funny example that he would often use where, someone would complain of not being able to see properly. And so, he would take off his glasses and give them to them, and they'd say, well, I still can't see. Everything's just more fuzzy. And he'd say, well, the problem must be you because they work for me. And we just don't believe, what he's trying to emphasize is that so often we think what works for us is going to work for everybody, and we just don't subscribe to that. We believe that the reality is that for us to be a very customer driven, a very industry driven software company, we need to kind of get out of our own assumptions and spend a lot of time listening. And there's an approach to that. There's a product development approach that's a very disciplined approach that's part of the fabric of a lot of leading software companies in the world today, and we subscribe to that just to make sure we don't have any of those biases. Okay, diatribe aside, let's talk about, specific to the 1,000 bad reviews. That was our research project last year, Valerie, as you're aware. A customer nailing a company online, we believe that it's just the final train car, the caboose, will you, right? Of like a long train wreck. You know what I'm saying? And we really believe that when you have a customer who ultimately just takes it to the internet to say, "Hey, watch out for this company," that is a chain of events that was the result of a long-standing breakdown of processes and workflows. And so, as a process and workflow company, we wanted to be able to better understand that. And nowadays, our customers are companies that recognize that the customer has never wielded more power. I think it was Jeff Bezos who said, back in the day, an angry customer could tell 6 or 7 people. Now they can tell about 7 to 8,000. And so we wanted to understand, like, what's the true impact of an online review? Like, so many companies just don't give it a second thought, Valerie. They say, they'll get over it. When in reality, we learned that it has an enormous impact. So let's go to this survey. Why are we so focused on this survey, and why does it matter for us as a software company? Well, because it's common knowledge that staffing is the largest challenge in this industry. Valerie, you mentioned the report on the industry that your team put out last year, and actually you can go back. I think I went as far as 2017, and R&R has been putting out reports saying staff. Staffing. It's just this challenge that's been this perennial challenge. What we don't know is what do our staff think we should do about it? Does that make sense? And that's what we're after. We were kind of joking around just before we kicked things off here, and you know, if you were to watch a reality show, and sometimes in reality show they're doing their thing and they run into a sound guy who's off camera, and then you see there's like a zoom boom camera there or whatever, and so really, what we're after with this survey, just to kind of reiterate in a bit what I said earlier, is we want that sound guy to just bring that microphone in on the staff, the hands and feet that move this industry forward, and say, what do you think? What are some of the things that are going really well at your company? And hey, do you think you'll be here next year? Like, if it's your decision. And if they say, actually, no, I don't see myself here next year, say, well, what would need to change for you to stay? Right? Assuming that they'd be a regrettable turnover, right? And so that's the type of the information that we're after. And we've got lots of ideas and notions as business owners. I'm a business owner, of what needs improvement. But the reality is that we need to hear from our people, and so that's why it's so important that it's an anonymous survey, and we want to hear from a specific cohort in the industry. So that's a lot of information. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that is hugely helpful context. It's really intriguing to back it up and understand as an organization, know how like what your aim is here. It's also it says and means a lot that you are sharing this information with the industry, that you're engaging the industry in this initiative, which we'll get to more. And that you truly are taking that, you are backing it up and and questioning yourselves before even creating the solutions that you offer. So curious, just so we're clear on, I understand that when you invest in a survey at Know How, it's not, this isn't a LinkedIn poll, this isn't a quick, simple, easy Survey Monkey situation. But can you talk a little bit about that, just so we can ground ourselves in the seriousness, in the legitimacy of your approach to research here, and kind of what goes into that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question because at the end of the day, when you're doing something at this scale, is this something that you're just putting on LinkedIn as a post? And we're looking for meaningful, actionable insights, stuff that we need to lift rocks and see what's under there. But more importantly, we need to lift hundreds and hundreds of rocks, because the reality is that you need to be able to cast a pretty wide net to be able to start to see themes, to start to see patterns, to really start to see inflections in the data. And and yeah, you know what? Sometimes you need to listen to the outliers, sometimes you don't. But let me just break it down. So there's preliminary research, key industry trends, existing research, validating the need for these types of research to be done. So there's that type of preliminary work, and then there's like a collaborative development of a survey. And so we're fortunate to partner with organizations like your own, and many other leading vendors in the industry that came in, and they just really helped sharpen the saw, so to speak. Right? We're just kind of sticking with those Covey isms, I suppose, today, and to really refine that survey down to something that is really, I would say, a good holistic overview of some of the themes that we are really, really focused on. And then from there, there's distribution. There's distribution strategies around how do we really, get this in front of as many individuals as possible. Then there's analysis, right? And so, yes, I mean, we're investing in this survey, and so that means we have to have business analysis done on it, because that's enormous reams of data, and so the ability to actually move that into something that I would say is tangible, is actionable, and then from there move into reporting and then presenting. And a lot of our partners have plans for this data so that they can use it to refine their own services. But anyways, that's a bit of an arc, and all of that, you'll say, okay, well, what does that mean for my worker? 10 minutes. Means 10 minutes. Means anonymous 10 minutes. And if they do it, they could like win some power drills. That's what it means practically for them.
Thank you very much for helping us understand a lot of thought, perspectives, investment, time, resources went into
Mm-hmm.
this, and will continue to go into the analysis and reporting of it.
Hmm.
So we talked about why this survey, the restoration workforce survey is
Hmm.
happening, why you are embarking on it. I'm curious if you could you dive deeper into your goals and hopes
Hmm.
for how exactly it'll help? Of course, know how,
Hmm.
which I think you talked a little bit about, but really
Hmm.
how it could help the industry.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair question. So I mean, the number one goal is let's give the workers a turn at the microphone, right? And the number two goal is for companies that really want to win with the future workforce. We can get into workforce trends and what Gen Zs care about and what the aging workforce is going to look like and what 75% millennials in the next 6 years and dominating the work, like we can get into all of that because there's a lot of very tangible things. But let's just say this: companies who care about that, companies that don't want to be a dinosaur in 5 years, companies that don't want to be irrelevant in 5 years, realize that when you see the inflections coming to the overall construction industry, you see the impact of labor shortages and how that will drive wages, how that will drive delays in the projects, how that will drive stress and exacerbate the issues that are so prevalent in this industry. Not enough time for onboarding, not enough time for training. Anyways, when you see companies that realize, holy smokes, like there are a lot of really significant choke points that are coming to the industry, we want to be able to give them tangible information, not just reams of data, but the ability to say, these are the 7 things that if you do these things during an onboarding, there is a much higher likelihood that they're going to still be there a year from now. You know what I mean? Like that tactical, those tactical strategies that will help customers of ours and frankly everyone in the industry to be able to just drive better outcomes. And so yes, we're making those results freely available to the industry, and our partners will be able to leverage that data as well. And so it's our desire that that information will be broadly available. And so what it means for us, if a person was to say, okay, like know how what are your cards on the table? The reality is that we're a workforce software with the mission of helping our customers just seamlessly onboard, guide, support, monitor, dispatch their staff in the way they do things. And so we're practicing what we preach. And we said, you know what, if we really want to support companies to be able to really win with this workforce, we better understand what this workforce cares about. And so those are some of the goals, Valerie.
Very helpful. Now,
Hmm.
within the restoration industry, from the
Hmm.
survey input,
Hmm.
by that, participating in the questionnaire and output,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
taking in those findings, those actionable insights and, taking action on them. Do you
Hmm.
have particular target audiences in mind for who takes the
Hmm.
survey and who acts on the insights, or is it really
Hmm.
open to anybody within the industry on both sides?
So question number two, I think, is what is your role? And you select from that. So anybody in the industry who is in the restoration business can take the survey, and so we'll be filtering results, and absolutely, we'll probably have a little secret category for like owners that pretended to be workers who wanted to stack the deck. I mean, who knows, right? But the reality is if a person was to say, who are we really after? I would say I'll break it into 3 cohorts, right? So optimally, what we're looking for, Valerie, is individuals that nobody reports to them, right? So if you were to say, who reports to you? They'd say, nobody, right? Like I'm like somebody who ultimately is the on the ground floor, or also maybe someone who's in junior or maybe even middle management. That's kind of our optimal cohort. Individuals that make up, let's call it the 80% of the base of an organization. Now, we absolutely want to hear from managers, senior managers, the V suite, the C suite, all that kind of group. But if a person was to say, if you could really only have a certain community or a certain cohort in the industry complete this, it'd be kind of that 80% of the organization who really are a big part of the doing side of the business, as opposed to maybe the management or the strategy, that side of the business. in every department. At the end of the day, we need people who are great on the accounting side to enter the industry, and we need people who are great on the mitigation side to enter the industry. So hopefully that's a little more helpful.
Very helpful. Thanks for breaking down
Hmm.
the different cohorts that you're exploring.
Hmm.
Um, that said, more into the survey experience, what kinds of questions are
Hmm.
you going to be asking, or are you asking, I should say?
Yeah. So, hey, the best way to find out, restorationsurvey.net, takes 10 minutes, get some sweet prizes. If you'll be drawn for some sweet prizes. And, but let me just give you a few examples. So, and again, there are many questions, but off the top of my head, what could have been better? Well, maybe what, if anything, could have been better about your first 2 weeks on the job, right? Another question would be, to keep great people longer, what is something that your company could do differently, right? Or what are some of the most enjoyable parts of your job, you know? And a lot of us are familiar with systems like the NPS, like the Net Promoter System, and so we're trying to do the largest ever kind of NPS score on the industry, and that ability to simply respond to the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend working for the company that you currently work at to a friend or family member? And we've already had many responses, and it's interesting. It's really interesting to see, the variations in the data. But those are some examples of the questions that they'll encounter.
Thank you. Could you
Hmm.
dive a little further into, you've hinted at this and you've talked about how you also have, partners in kind of sharing the insights, but
Hmm.
what comes after you get the results? What can the industry expect in terms of deliverables?
Hmm. Yeah. So we do have, okay, so let me just make it very, very clear to anyone who's saying, how do I find out the results of this survey? So we have two kinds of partners who are partnering with us. We have what we call our communication partners, because this is going to take a village. This takes a village to get the word out, because there's a big industry, there's a lot of participants in it. And so communication partners, of which we have numerous. You go to the website, you're going to see a lot of familiar faces on there in terms of leading vendors in the organization, and so by participating as a communication partner, they are also receiving what we call those raw results, anonymized, right? But these raw results, because they know that they need that information to be able to improve their services, their products, their offerings to the industry. And a lot of those organizations are a lot of the top speakers, a lot of the top presenters at so many of our conferences. So that's how some of the information is going out. Companies that want to participate. So an owner who's listening to this and says, "Man, I need that information." And so companies that participate is what we call workforce champions. They receive the results for the regions that they operate within, anonymized, right? So, but it's information for them to be able to really look at within the territories that I operate. What seems to really matter the most to the workforce. And then really those that are don't fall into those two categories, well, they're going to receive the results in the form of reports that get put out to the industry. We'll be creating another, I guess you call it an ebook that will be going out. And then I would assume that pretty much each of our partners will create their own resources to be able to kind of move that information into the industry. So we are, if a person was to say, are you guys, is know how keeping the results themselves, or are they making it available? We are heavily leaning over here. We might have been the catalyst to spark this, but this is a team effort.
Thank you, Leighton. Yes, R&R is happy to help share the insights once they're
Mhm.
available in spring. So, curious how many respondents in an ideal world you'd like to see take the survey at minimum. Do you have a target there?
Last count, I think there's about 21,000 businesses in the industry, so that would be nice. But you know what? We'll have to probably we'd be happy if I think that for meaningful data, you tend to need to require a certain level of response for meaningful data, and so yeah, we're looking for a certain level of geographic participation. We're looking for a certain level of, I would say, cohort participation in terms of roles and tenures in the industry. But ideally, hey, we're driven, we're motivated, and our partners and us, we would love to see hundreds and if not thousands of participants in this survey. So I hesitate to set kind of like a hard number, but the reality is we want to get as many voices as possible to be able to take 10 minutes out of their day, and as many leaders in this industry as possible to tell their staff, hey, this is an important activity. You know, this is anonymous. You might win some stuff, but let your voice be heard. And so we're hopeful. We're hopeful that it will be a lot.
Awesome. So we'll clarify in a few minutes how long the survey is available and more on that. But to be clear, it is open
Yeah,
now for taking and participation
yeah.
for 10 minutes of participants' time. But I'm curious
Mhm.
now that it's launched and as you were reaching out to partners and letting the world know this is happening, what kind of feedback are you getting at this point from the industry?
Yeah, I mean, this is an amazing industry. I I don't know. I can't think of a single organization or company that we've reached out to that hasn't said yes. How can I help? Right? Um, I mean, this keeps people up at night, right? And this is the thing that keeps people up at night is, will I be able to find, retain, and grow the people that my company is going to need to continue to scale in this industry? And so the reception has been warm. We've received fantastic feedback from our partners to refine the survey. We've received warm, wide open doors from companies that say, please survey my staff. How can we continue to be a leader in this industry? Um, been awesome. Yeah, it's been great. There's been yeah, good response so far.
Awesome. Okay, so if I want to take the survey and I want to
Hmm.
plan and I can't get to it today or tomorrow, how long
Yeah,
is this going to be open for participation? It's open now
yeah.
until when?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna give you two dates here. So we have some early bird prizes. So everyone who participates in the survey, that's like a ballot in a draw. We've got dozens of sweet prizes, from sports gear, sports memorabilia to power tools to hunting to equipment. Like we got all this stuff, and so an early bird cutoff is Sunday, December 19th. And so that's when we want to get a whole whack of people to participate. And we're hoping that, we can maybe even, get them their prizes over the holidays. And so that's number one. And then from there, we're really hoping that by around early February, we can close the doors and we've received enough meaningful feedback that we can agree that, we have a really fantastic sampling. And then really, I would say kind of February and early March are really you know, business analytics, kind of data analytics and really being able to refine and sink our teeth into that data. And then as we step into the spring in kind of early April, that's where you're going to start to see a lot of these results come out.
Thank you. Okay, you said it before. I'm going to ask again. We want to make it very clear. Where can we find the survey? What URL do we go to?
Absolutely. Any device, restorationsurvey.net, restorationsurvey.net. And when you pull it up, there is a giant button that says complete the survey. And if you scroll a little further down, you're going to see a whole bunch of familiar logos with our fantastic communication partners. And then if you scroll a little further down, you're going to see a whole bunch of cool prizes that you can win just for taking the time to participate in this anonymous survey. And if you scroll a little further down, you'll start to see companies who are being recognized as workforce champions. Companies that say, we're going to be on the leading edge of getting ahead of this challenge. And so that's where it is. It's restorationsurvey.net.
Awesome. Thanks for that lay of the land so we know what to expect. Last question before we go. I'm curious if you have like any predictions and or like are there any questions in this survey that you personally are particularly excited to see what people have to say about or what the responses are? Yeah.
Hmm. You know what? There are many questions that I'm very keen to see the responses on. One of the ones that I would say I'm most interested in is, what is something that your company could do to keep good people longer? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, every worker in this industry, just like anyone who's played on a sports team, has seen someone step off the team and they're like, oh man, we are worse because they are not here. And so I'm particularly interested in giving people an anonymous opportunity, kind of a private, turn at the mic to say, I don't think she would have left if this was different. Or I think he probably would still be here if just this was different. And I think that's very interesting because at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is regrettable turnover. Let's be honest, right? In a high turnover industry, the construction industry overall sees a lot of turnover. And the reality is that some people that transition out with more the byproduct of it just wasn't the right fit. But there are people that leave, and so how do we keep those people around longer? I think is something we're very interested in. So that's one of the questions that I'm interested in.
Thanks for sharing that. Very cool, very intriguing one to pick out, and I love your analogy of the turn at the mic. Love it. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate this conversation. Anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to make sure we covered off on before signing off?
You know what, Valerie? The only thing I would just hit home is if you own a restoration company and you care about this problem, survey at tryknowhow.com and let's get you on board to be a workforce champion so that you can get these results from your regions. If you are, a vendor in the industry, and you said, hey, I'll help get the word out, and you want the results, then let us know and let's get you plugged in as a communication partner. And so that would be my last ask. And then if you're listening to this and you're just someone, in the industry and you're like, hey, I'm the hands and feet of how things get done in my company, take the survey. It's 10 minutes, and people, real humans, will read your results and take them seriously, or read your responses and take them seriously.
Thanks so much, Leighton. One last question, actually, before we go. For those who are interested in learning more about KnowHow and or connecting with you, how can they do that? Where can they go?
You know what? You can go to tryknowhow.com and click a button, and someone will give you a call. And we'd love to learn about how we can help your business scale more consistently without the chaos.
Much appreciated. Learned a lot. Excited to partner with you on helping people know this survey is happening, getting the participation, analyzing the results, and sharing them with the industry. So, listeners and viewers, please stay tuned for more on this. R&R will be reporting on the results in the spring of 2022, and we also plan to have Leighton back on, another Ask the Expert, and there we'll do another in-depth interview that time on the findings and what they mean for restorers. Other than that, for more insights on restoration, remediation, and the people behind it all, visit our website, randrmagonline.com, also Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. If you haven't yet, please be sure to follow the podcast so you can keep up with all of our latest episodes and give us a quick review and rating if you can. Also, if you know someone else who might find this podcast interesting, please share away. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, so we invite you to follow us there too. This has been R&R's Ask the Expert. Thanks for listening.